Hi, my name is Carol Fencl, and I was one of 10 St. Johners who attended the virtual GA this year. I'd like to share with you the two resolutions which were passed by the delegates called the Actions of Immediate Witness, or AIW. Let me give you a little background on what these mean. Each year at GA, there are people who want to encourage our whole association to take a stand on a pressing matter. The AIW is designed to be used as a guide and a prophetic statement. To pass an AIW, it must be approved by at least 2/3 of the delegates of that particular GA. This year, there were two such issues that were brought up for a vote. The first was called 400 Years of White Supremacist Colonialism, and the second was Amen to Uprising, a commitment and call to action. The first one, 400 Years of White Supremacist Colonialism. Where did this come from? Well, our GA was supposed to be held in Providence, Rhode Island, which was planning to celebrate this year the landing of the Pilgrims 400 years ago. Now, as we intellectually know, the land wasn't empty when the Pilgrims arrived, but most of us weren't taught that about from the aspect of what that meant to the inhabitants, the indigenous people who were already there. We knew the Pilgrims were settling a new land, but probably never thought about any ideas of white supremacy taking place, or how the Pilgrims, who were the ancestors of our early Unitarians in New England, actually behaved. These early Unitarians practiced what we now call white supremacist behaviors. These practices generally were accepted and passed down, even taught in the seminaries, often without question. Many of the talks and workshops at GA actually helped us struggle and begin to come to terms with issues around white supremacist colonialism that wasn't just a problem 400 years ago, but has continued on in some ways, even up to the present. Through this action of immediate witness, all UUs across the country are called on to gather in solidarity with all the indigenous peoples struggling to preserve their lands, waters, peoples, sacred sites, and sovereignty. Called on to work on many levels to do decolonizing work, nationally, statewide, and locally. This might be in school curricula. It might be in racist mascots like we've just done in Anderson Township. And to work to stop and reverse ecological harm where indigenous people are affected, exploitation of the land, the water, the air. This resolution was passed by 94% of the delegates who were present. Our second one is called Amen to Uprising, a commitment and call to action. This resolution can be thought of as starting with the Black Lives Matter concerns that have been voiced through protests and expanded to widespread uprisings all across the country. It is written with a very broad brush and includes many interrelated groups, ideas about policing, liberation, abolishing ICE. It includes support for organizations by and for Black people, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, BLUE, Diverse and Revolutionary UU Multicultural Ministries, DRUM, and others. It includes systemic change within congregations looking at policing and its relationship to the congregation. This could be how we relate to the police, like the presence in our church, or deactivating security systems which call police. It includes, as a church, maybe being more involved in protest, supporting uprisings with spiritual and material resources, funding movements through congregational budgets, and providing spiritual care for protesters and survivors of police and state terror. This particular resolution received 82% of the votes cast. In closing, the delegates at GA voted to support both of the actions of immediate witness. Now it's up to local congregations, including St. John's, to consider these and decide what parts might be especially important for our own church. Since there were 10 of us present at GA, and as you can tell today, we came back full of energy, you can expect to hear more about the implications of these AIWs. This may mean study, or it may mean active discussions, or it maybe even mean some controversial actions. Who knows where it will lead? So our two resolutions were 400 Years of White Supremacist Colonialism and Amen to Uprising, a commitment and call to action.